Listen and subscribe to The Table of Truth on iTunes, Spotify, Stitcher, and Google Podcasts. We're already about 20 minutes in, but let me do an intro anyways. Welcome everybody to The Table of Truth. This is your man Cam, special edition, Blerdlines, where we talk geeky stuff, sci-fi stuff, TV, movies, film, which is pretty much the same thing, but yeah. And with me as always is...
It is I, Josh. I have no nicknames this week.
And also,
it is me, D, the professor, as always. I'm always the professor.
D, who knows?
As he strokes his beard.
I stroke my beard.
I am the professor.
It will be long and white and gray one day.
I
like mine?
for the I shaved for like the first time in like, I don't know, 5 years. I was like, sheesh, yowza.
I noticed you got the clean cut.
It's kind of crazy.
Looking all pretty.
It's weird, but you know. But yeah. So how's it going, guys? Happy COVID. Lockdown 2, the Boogaloo.
It's coming. Seems like it's coming.
2 years into 14 days of flattening the curve.
Yes, that's exactly what it is. Exactly. But fortunately, we have a lot of good shit to watch now.
We do.
That's true.
So
earlier COVID has been quite kind to us.
Yeah, exactly. Earlier we were talking about random stuff, but y'all got a chance to finish up with Loki, and it was only 6 episodes, right?
6 episodes.
Yeah. And so 6 episodes, WandaVision was first. That was 12. I think it
25.
was. Or like
it was the most,
too
right?
Long. Yeah, it was the most one.
It was like 12 or 13.
Yeah, so we had WandaVision. WandaVision was, I think, about 10 to 12. And then we had Winter Soldier and Falcon and Winter Soldier. That was about 8. And then
Falcon comes first.
It's just Black Power. And then now we had Loki, and Loki was a solid 6. And I would have to say, in those 3 series, Loki, I think, helped figure out their pacing problem, and they used every minute of their 6 episodes to like its optimal like potential. I thought, and this, I thought for me, WandaVision was too long; it could have been chopped down by 2 episodes. And then I think for Falcon and Winter Soldier, they could have added an extra episode. And maybe 2, but I think it was, it felt like almost too, rushed. And then here they actually felt like a good, like sweet spot. And we got to a good introduction of our man Kang, and I thought that was good.
Yeah, that was pretty good. Yeah. No, I that was a solid 6 episodes, and I think one of the great things is that it felt like the MCU was kind of cleaning up some of its would be potential continuity issues that could emerge going into phase 4 and knowing what we know about phases 1 through 3, and all the things that have happened. So I thought that was a good use of that as a device. And usually time travel is always used as a device to reset the narrative or go into a different direction and say, hey, that thing existed, but here's this other possibility, this other probably what if something this happened or this character took this turn instead of the other. So with Loki, I thought it worked extremely well.
Agreed.
Yeah,
100%. And I think they used it as a good springboard for whatever the next, not whatever, we know what the next thing is going to be. But just an expertly positioned the next big thing. And John Majors was phenomenal as he who remains.
Yeah.
Incredible
great
performance,
time.
Man.
And and it was good because I think like the thing that they got right, or the one good thing about all 3 of the episodes all 3 of the seasons series is they fit nicely with the continuity of the MCU, and they like either ask questions, answer some questions, continued some questions, and I thought they did a really good job. And I think it was interesting hearing from different people of how they liked Loki or not. Like I noticed people that really liked WandaVision weren't as keen onto Loki because they felt Loki was too much talking and like all that kind of stuff. And then the vice versa, people that weren't really into WandaVision, they're like, "Yo, Loki was dope. Like, that's the best. That's the best series out of all of them." Blah 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 blah. And so I thought that in general, like this Loki was, one, Tom Hiddleston was fucking killing it, so he's just having fun the whole time. And then and then you have Owen Wilson, which is hilarious too, because I was like, how's this gonna work? And then he was very Owen Wilson-y to the whole thing, and it worked fine.
It worked well.
Yeah. And then also when they did and then John Majors, man, he killed that shit, dude. I think
cherry on top, man.
And you could tell he was having fun too. And I think that's as I get older, I appreciate when I watch stuff and the actors are having fun too. Like you could tell that they're really enjoying like doing this type of situation or whatever the character is. And he was like killing that, like just totally reveling in the whole massiveness of it and really having those nuances. And then not to mention having the Enchantress or Sophie as a balance. I thought that was actually like a pretty good choice too, because I was really curious to see how they were going to make how that work, and I thought they did it pretty good.
Yeah. Did you guys watch the behind the scenes special that they did?
Oh crap! No, I didn't.
No, I haven't checked that one out.
It's pretty good. It's pretty good. You should check it out.
Yeah, I gotta watch that one. They did the one for Falcon and Winter Soldier too, right?
Yeah,
yeah. I think they had one for all of them.
They have one for each.
For each one. Yeah, and honestly, by the time you get to Loki, you kind of see exactly what the Feige creative core is doing for Phase 4. I mean, the 3 series were totally epilogues of 2 Avengers Endgame. They wrapped up certain lingering storylines, but also established brand new continuity, which that's what you want. You want that. I think before, ironically, it was the reverse. They had allowed the movies to kind of start and pick up steam, and they were in full force. And then you had Winter Soldier crossing over with Agents of S.H.I.E.L.D., and that was big and it was great, but you couldn't keep up with that because the show was going to keep going and the movies are going to have their period of, in
between time.
Yeah, exactly. But this is different where it's like we saw in each of these epilogues the establishment of the bigger thing that's to come in the cinema. So I think I mentioned it. We talked about it before. With WandaVision, it's the establishment of the supernatural and the magical realm. With Falcon and Winter Soldier, there's an establishment of a new ground-based Hydra type organization that might be out there. Maybe even and you saw some of that even still in WandaVision with Sword. Kind of organization altogether. And then Loki was the sort of cap off. And how appropriate is it that the new primary antagonist of the MCU is introduced via the first main antagonist of the Avengers? Those kind of little small things.
I see you, Feige. I see what you're doing there.
It's like, you appreciate that kind of thought into the story and into the business of the film itself. It's like, well, we're making a lot of money, but we can still make this universe make sense in the best way possible. And
I think that's the thing too. It's kind of like people are having that comics fatigue right now, where it's like all these comics movies coming out and that kind of stuff. Yeah, and then
I'll buy that for a second.
And then, it's people say it and then they'll watch something and they're like, oh, they're hype again.
Yeah.
And then it was say, for instance, I watched.
That's the only game in town.
100%. As of right now, it is. But I watched Black Widow and I was like, I was not expecting. I don't know. I expected like spy action, that kind of thing. But I wasn't really expecting much. My expectations are probably like Ant-Man level, like Doctor Strange level. And honestly, they delivered on that. Plus, like maybe like a dash more with some really solid like second cast. Like.
Widow was a good movie. It wasn't great. It wasn't terrible. It was right up the middle. Like I said, and I mean up the middle for Marvel, which is still way above average.
Which to me is like an Ant-Man, like that film where it's like, did you really care about Ant-Man? Nah, but then you watch it, you're like, yo, I kind of care about Ant-Man now.
Well, you care about Quantumania now, thanks to John Majors. Like you certainly care about what's coming for Quantumania.
Yep. But those are those little fine touches, and like same with Black Widow. Like Black Widow was helped by an amazing supporting cast, and like everybody that was supporting cast was so dope. And so it helped to balance out the stuff that probably would have easily been kind of like wooden or kind of boring, because that's kind of how ScarJo's kind of like acting is. But then having the sister, having David Harbour, who's always awesome.
That was the Yelena movie, Yelena and the Scarlet Witch people.
Yeah,
I mean,
pretty much.
Black Widow people.
Well, that's what it should have been. I think Cam and I had this conversation before, which was the best way to tell that movie, the story of that movie, is to have it from the point of view of the sister or her name, but to have it from her point of view and be about Natasha, but not Natasha being the lead protagonist, because we know that she's already dead. We know that this doesn't go anywhere beyond setting up things for this character. So
exactly. And if they would have done it that way, it would have been. I think that would have been really fresh. And I think it, even though it still worked. And I thought like they had great comic moments. They had great moments. Usually do Marvel movies, good action set pieces and stuff like that. And like, the sister like completely killed it from top to bottom. It was super fun. Every time she's on screen, you're just laughing, or you're enjoying watching the whole thing. Yep. So you're right.
She was great too. Florence, was it Florence Pugh?
Yeah, Florence Pugh.
She was amazing in Midsommar, and that movie was gut wrenching to watch. I mean, she's amazing. I knew she was going to kill that role.
Yeah, so she definitely killed that. And I think with that, with seeing that Black Widow, and also watching these series, you're right. It just I think what I keep trying to tell people is like, I don't think you guys really realize Marvel's been around for like 80 years. So like,
almost
80 years worth of
stories to the game.
Yeah, so it's like every time you guys think something might get stale or you might get a little bored, they literally can pull something from 1947 and be like, yo, this might be cool.
Yeah. Well, and that's the thing about, to their credit too, DC is the same way. I mean, James Gunn did that recently, pulled an obscure character. I know we'll talk about that more, but who would have thought, that something like that could work? But that's because of damn near 100 years of content. That's from the most famous characters to the most obscure, that was like, oh, I just wrote this because I was bored that day. And it just happened to get published and maybe had a brief run, or like the character started appearing in more popular stuff,
Yeah, exactly. And I think even because like I remember when Guardians of the Galaxy got announced as a movie back then, I was kind of like, because I follow Guardians of the Galaxy. Yeah, like I remember that reaction. Yeah, I actually follow Guardians of the Galaxy from like the old days in the early 90s with Jim Valentino, and it was like super cheesy. It was one of the first books I actually bought #1 and then followed it all the way through. And then when they had a resurgence in 2008, I think that was a Lanning and Abnett resurgence, and they really out Lord, drug out Rocket Raccoon, like all these characters from the 70s that nobody was using. I think they used like Jack Flag and like a bunch of just characters from the 70s that nobody was rocking with. And so it was really dope that they did that. And so when they said they're doing Guardians of the Galaxy, I'm like, yo, Marvel is really trying to see if they can pull anything out their hat and make people like them. And they totally delivered on that.
Yeah.
And I think, and then to segue to James Gunn and his Suicide Squad. But James Gunn, to his credit, did the same thing when he had to have a quick vacation over to DC.
A quick paid vacation.
Yeah, exactly. And for people that might have forgotten, James Gunn was unceremoniously fired from Marvel MCU Phase 4 showrunner,
being very ceremoniously rehired.
He was, and I think that's the part that at the time, because I was actually still working at Marvel then, it was like super shocking actually. But he was supposed to be
I wasn't expecting that.
Yeah, he was supposed to be the showrunner for MCU 4. Like, he was the main cat that was going to, he had a Bible that he was working on and the whole nine and what he was trying to do. So we were actually kind of excited because oh man, it's going to be some cosmic stuff, probably get some good Nova. We're going to we're like pretty excited about it. And then when the whole tweet thing that he did that no one even remembers, and then someone at Disney felt obligated that we should cut him, and so like and I think it really was a on high exec level, like, yo, we should just fire him, and then they fired him, kind of a thing. And everyone else had to scramble to figure out what to do.
So basically, from what I read, from what I remember reading, basically, Alan Horn, is that his name? The guy who's the head of creative for Disney, basically saw all the stuff and thought he was going to be getting in front of any backlash by firing him. Kevin Feige was like, no, jumped on a plane, went to Disney HQ and was like, if you don't rehire him right now. And apparently what happened was, out of that meeting, basically he was like, all right, cool, we'll rehire him. But it can't look like, we have to be concerned now with optics. He can't look like he caved to pressure or he was told or, anything. Because at the time, Iger was still running things and he's the heir apparent. So he can't come into the big chair with his first big act being sort of doubling back on his initial decision to cut James Gunn. So some time had to pass before he was able to rehire James Gunn. But by the time he rehired him, James Gunn was like, yeah, I know I was going to do the whole Phase 4 thing. Not anymore.
He's like, after he finishes
you guys,
3, he's done. Like,
pretty much. Yeah, exactly. Which is sad, but hey, man, so it goes. But that being said, DC picked him up for Suicide Squad.
That is the way the comic book that wasn't put in plastic crumbles.
Yep. And so then DC picked him up for Suicide Squad, which is pretty smart because they literally were just like, hey, help. Here's one, let's get him. Look, we can't give you Batman and we can't give you Superman and we can't give you Wonder Woman, but can you just help? Just
here's this Suicide Squad thing that somebody here, take it and do something with it.
So just to refresh everybody's memory on what happened with the original Suicide Squad, everything was puttering along nicely. Everybody was really happy with the treatments that were submitted, and then they submitted the footage for the trailer. Trailer company knocks it out of the park. They love the trailer. The trailer is so well received that the talking heads at WB decide, you know what? Let's redo the entire movie in the motif of the trailer, which was all 60s classic rock. So not only did they decide to redo the entire movie, not only did they try to redirect the entire script, but they basically handed off the movie to the trailer company.
Yeah.
To complete, which is just,
Yikes.
And so what everyone thought was going to be a no, the cast was dope. What's his name who wrote it? David Ayer? Not David Ayers. Yeah, David Ayers. You pretty much knew he was going to deliver on the goods. And then not so much.
Yeah, and to be fair, and
it's not his fault
to do with David Ayers. but whatever story was there, it just wasn't working no way. So,
I think it could have worked as it was. It's just that they redid so much of it, and they rehashed so much of it, and reworked so much of it to fit the whole classic rock motif that they set up in the trailer. I think it would have worked better if it was just the original. I mean,
So was the original the Enchantress and all of that stuff?
So that stuff was there, but it was better. I think it was, from what I understand, it was better fleshed out and better. Okay. You know, it was baked a little differently in the oven, so to speak.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, fair enough.
And I think that's the thing too, where it's like, I guess that kind of, which is crazy because we should have known this was going to happen for other things too, because Suicide Squad got hacked to death, and then Wonder Woman surprisingly was like, oh, this is actually kind of cool. And then Wonder Woman 84, Lord have mercy.
What? WB executives getting their hands all up in the movie?
I don't know who saw that and even thought it was a good movie, let alone a good superhero Wonder Woman movie. Like,
so bad.
WB executives never get involved in films. What are you guys talking about?
Shout out to the designers that did the posters and the all that kind of stuff. They did a great job.
They sold me on it.
Shout out to them because that shit.
Even the marketing company who did the trailers,
loved it.
That first trailer was bonkers.
Yeah,
everything looked good, but
everything until you got to the movie.
Yes,
the moment the movie starts.
Ooh. But that was the past.
Yes,
this is now.
Right,
looking forward, not back,
and not defeats.
Yes. So the Suicide Squad, James Gunn directed and wrote, and I forgot who else did some other stuff on it, starring our man Idris. And man, that shit was actually pretty dope. I wasn't pleasantly surprised. The bar was so low, but I was like, I was kind of like, again, I trust James Gunn. It's not that big of a deal. Like, sure. I figured he would deliver on, some funny, good action, whatever. Some of the funny was a little stale, like some of the jokes are kind of but like in general, I was
Rest
like,
in peace, Milton.
Yep. Rest in peace, Milton. But like there was parts of it where I was like, okay, cool. Like he basically Guardians in the Galaxy did, which was smart. And then, but it did it in a way that worked, and over the top action and gore and stuff. I didn't expect that much gore, but actually worked well. And then I think, especially for King Shark, who's already getting like some fame from the Harley Quinn show, they did a good job of kind of bringing that element into it. And so it was fun. It was
King
enjoyable.
Shark has been getting a lot of play between the Harley Quinn show, now the Suicide Squad, and then was it King Shark in Apocalypse Dark?
Yeah,
Justice League Dark Apocalypse.
Oh, because
King Shark is a shark.
And King Shark is a shark. Yes.
Yep.
Yes.
Yeah. So it was like I said, it was one of those I put it. It's better than Aquaman and Shazam, but it's in that same realm of like, oh, this is cool.
Yeah, I gave it a 10. But like a low 10. It's not like a high perfect. Like the movie was perfect. 10. It did what it was supposed to do. It did everything. It paid off everything that it set up. It lined up all the ducks in a row. Even the cheesy jokes to me were still funny as hell. Again, rest in peace, Milton.
The one thing about Milton though is like legit when I saw him like running into the base that they were supposed to destroy, I was like, wait, what are you doing, dude?
Yeah.
I knew you did.
I was watching it when I was like, what's Milton doing? Like, yo, like and then he just kept going through the whole movie, and I was like, hey, Milton just kind of hanging out. Like,
yeah, I was surprised that he lasted as long as he did. To be honest, like I thought he was going to die as soon as we met him. He was that nondescript.
And then also I would say too is I am a devout hater of Harley Quinn. I do not like the character. I think she's fucking horrible. But in this Suicide Squad, I thought they played it really, really well because they amped it and they leaned in on the insanity, crazy of Harley. Yes. And that's kind of to me because like Harley Quinn has no powers. Like she's literally just insane and that's it. Where like, and I think if that because they leaned in on that part of it, I thought that was dope because I was like, oh, cool. This makes sense.
Her driver.
She's doing. Yeah, her motivation is she's literally insane.
She had two great scenes where you were reminded that she's a psychopath.
Oh yes,
Two
and
really
they were
great
amazing. Yeah,
Yeah. Yeah.
yeah,
And again, to me, that's when I think that the character works the best because they keep trying to
And-
make her like, say, for instance, like Birds of Prey, they're kind of making her, she has homies and she's like,
yeah.
I'm a woman, I'm trying to da da da
Yeah.
da. And I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? You know?
Well,
Whereas like this one, like,
okay.
okay.
Oh, go. Sorry. Didn't mean to interrupt.
Oh, it's the same because, like, again, at the end of the day, she's insane. That's like her superpower. So as long as
Insane
she's
and a
crazy,
villain.
she can do, yeah,
And a
she can
villain,
do,
yes.
yeah. Like you, as long as you keep those two aspects, it makes sense. But I think as they start to get outside of those aspects, that's when like it doesn't seem as it doesn't, for me, it doesn't work, but it also makes it more annoying. I think that's my, like, now she's like anti-hero, almost like she's part of the Bat fam now in the comics and this whole thing. And I like that in the Suicide Squad, like they literally just leaned in on her literally being insane, and it fit into the craziness of the Suicide Squad.
Well, yeah. Quick spoiler: the bit with so if you're listening and you haven't seen it, you should mute this part. The bit where she's being tortured and then she kills the dude who was torturing her, and not just that she killed him, how she killed him.
Yep.
Yeah.
That was that, and you could tell that was some James Gunn. It was like, yeah, I'm not just gonna let her choke him to death. I'm gonna make sure that she basically hangs him with her legs.
Yeah,
and Margot Robbie,
that was a Diesel move, pulling herself up the chain to make sure dude is elevated off the floor. Like, someone thought about that.
Yeah.
And that's the difference between the James Gunn's The Suicide Squad, and I don't know what David Ayers had planned, and I know that the studio chopped it up, but the difference between those two movies is the devil is always in the detail. Mm-hmm. I think I give The Suicide Squad 8.5 out of 10. I think it definitely did all right things. It was certainly fun, and like you guys point out, James Gunn understands character development and how to weave in between the character and the narrative. Definitely. So you had that nice balance which was different in the first one, where there's this effort to make these characters sympathetic. Yeah. And James Gunn is like, no, these are villains. These are the characters whom the superheroes you love fight.
Yep,
so
exactly.
I'm going to remind you why whenever I can. So, the perfect funny example was Idris and his daughter. That was at first, my first thought was, oh, here we go again. the black dad and his troubled daughter. I said that to myself, but then when they start getting shouting that and they're like, fuck you, and he's like, no, fuck you. And it's like that scene, and he's like, I'm like, okay.
And the scene that came after were absolutely. It was like you could tell James Gunn was like, I'm gonna give Idris and Viola some meat to chew on for a second.
Oh man,
yeah.
Oh, and that scene, that girl is definitely a star. You can go toe to toe with Idris Elba in a scene like that. And not
you can go toe to toe with her, like she
right, exactly.
And I thought that they did a good job.
Daughter, you talking about
the daughter?
The daughter. Oh yeah.
Oh, okay, yeah. And then the scene after that where he confronts Amanda Waller was just and Viola was quintessential Amanda Waller.
Oh my God!
100%. Yep, it's very true. Very true. I think we can now put to rest that she is now Amanda Waller. I was very on the Fat Waller for a long time, derogatory as that term is, but she's still one of the greatest cartoon characters of all time. Viola Davis, she has now accomplished that role.
Shout out to CCH Pounder.
Shout out to CCH Pounder. She is still the voice of Amanda Waller. 100%. There's been some good ones, some honorable mentions. But
yeah, CCH Pounder kills that role.
CCH Pounder is the animator.
And I think stamp on that thing.
And I would say like the original Suicide Squad, the standouts to me were Viola Davis, of course. And then I actually liked that Joker for different reasons, but not because of like, I think a lot of people hated the Jared Leto's Joker in it. in the Suicide Squad, but I kind of liked how they played it and how he kind of did that.
I liked
even though I thought it was fine. Like as a big character and someone that's not supposed to be the main dude, but he was there. I thought he did a good, impactful job and then kind of went out.
I like that. And the thing that I hated about that situation is he should have been the main antagonist and not the enemy.
Yeah,
if
exactly.
Joker had been the main antagonist of that film and the plot was about stopping something that his ass was up to, it would have been such a better film. Because 100%. You had already established this whole connection between Joker and Harley, and like Joker being the type of threat that he is, so much so that Amanda Waller not even talking to him about being on the squad. Like, it's not even an option.
That's not even an option. And I think you're right. I think Joker would have been a better bad guy, and then that would have played better with the Harley situation too. Because and I mean, at that time, now in the comics, Joker has like a new girlfriend or whatever. But like, it would have been cool to have him have his own henchmen and all that kind of stuff, and like him being the bad guy with no Batman. Like that would have been dope because it's like, yo, this guy is an existential threat, and he has the reason why Harley's here is because that was her old boyfriend, so she has intimate knowledge about it. Bop, 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 bop. All right, Deadshot, get your peoples. Let's make it happen.
Yeah, so Deadshot is the marksman. He gonna take him out no matter what. Like you had the reasons. It would have made more sense, and you did not need that Enchantress.
You didn't need that.
Storyline. Like you didn't need none of that. You had the perfect villain right there. You could have had just with a line of, like we always say, one line of dialogue explain Batman away. Why he not dealing with Joker right now?
100%.
They did it with the animated version, Suicide Squad Hell to Pay, where Joker, the whole reason they pulled them together is because Joker put together a bomb. And that one was great because it showed the point of view of each member of the Suicide Squad, how they view bats. And that was really good. Like that
and
was.
See, and then again, there you go. They could have done that in the original Suicide Squad, where it's like everyone hates Batman, and everyone tells their story of why they hate Batman.
They're also afraid of him, like
exactly. Exactly. And I think that part, and that's cool because I mean, I did like the Batman cameo in Suicide Squad. Like that was cool. It was like it was simple, easy, cool. But like you're right, like,
it made sense.
If Joker was the main antagonist, and then the squad's put together because they all need to do something to stop Joker. Harley's there because she has the connection with them. And then they're all bonded together because they all hate Batman and are afraid of him. Then boom, now you have a situation for a story that's interesting because we care for these characters who are all of Batman. It's like
that also sets up
the villain.
Exactly. That also sets up the Waller Batman rivalry really well because 100%. She's not a bad guy. But she's the Machiavellian anti-hero. Like
she's willing to do bad things to accomplish the good.
Good. Exactly.
Right. And also Batman.
Yeah, and she knows, and again, so she respects Batman for the shit that he does, but she's annoyed at Batman because of the shit that he does.
Because she has to clean up.
She has to clean up. She has to clean up all of his mess, and then also, so you're right. I think. See, there you go. We just fixed the original Suicide Squad.
It didn't even take us a day. It took us like a few minutes. You're welcome. So we redo that movie. We got the perfect film.
We're all multimillionaires, and I can retire.
There you go. And so the Suicide Squad. I liked Gunn's approach of like, yo, let's cast like 15 characters, super fun, do a whole press run with it, make sure. And then that was my thing. I was like, okay, cool. Everyone's getting the poster. I'm like, I want to see who's going to die in the first 7 minutes. And I had my guesses, and I was pretty on point. Actually, I thought I was pretty close to thing. But they did a good job of doing that, of just like kind of setting that stage, because then. Again, if you don't know anything about the Suicide Squad and this is how you get introduced to it only from the movie, then you're like, wait, what?
But that developed Waller perfectly. Like that was like, wow, that is Amanda Waller right there. That 100% is Amanda Waller.
Yeah, no, exactly. And so I think that was a good setup in terms of that aspect of it. And then, but yeah, I think he just had a lot of fun with it. He was like, yo, my bar is low. I just got to make a competent film that has some jokes, some good action. The use of Starro was actually a pretty good use of their,
and how
their
goofily
CG.
he did it.
Yeah, like a good CG budget use. And then
because Starro, like it was goofy as hell. but Starro is like kind of serious when it appears in the comics.
Yeah,
and in the animation.
If you want to get a glance of Starro being like actually kind of fearsome and something to be afraid of.
Yep.
The Young Justice episode where they casually throw in. Where they casually toss in Starro like it ain't nothing, just as a quick throwaway villain.
And it took me so long to realize that was Starro. I was like, wait a minute.
Didn't see it coming.
I was like,
but that was good.
That's Starro.
It was excellent. And
they never referred to it as Starro.
You will believe that a giant starfish is a problem.
Yeah. And I think that's what I think, like, we always talk about how the animations have always done much better than everything else, but like they just did it really well. Like they planted the seeds, grew it a little bit, let it go, and then when it hits you, you're like, wait a minute. And then when you go back, oh man, it was there the whole time.
And they use all of that to the perfection.
And I was reading up too that they were pretty, Idris was pretty adamant about not being Deadshot. Like he was very like, I don't want to be that character. I would like rather.
And that's cool. I'm glad he did that.
I thought that was one, respect. Two, that was smart. And then like what Guy was saying, how like they pulled out obscure characters that they haven't used in forever to just kind of, because even Bloodsport is not a character and used,
not prominent.
Right.
20 years, like anything big,
No, he's like Sportsmaster to Young Justice, like where like Young Justice took that character and made it. Wow, Sportsmaster.
Sportsmaster is 100% one of the goofiest goofiest comic book characters. Even the name is just ridiculous. You can't possibly take someone named Sportsmaster seriously
until you
believe that dude is a problem. In Young Justice, that dude is a problem.
You think he's like, and then they get into like overlapping his background. So like, going back to the Bloodsport thing, DC has plenty of characters just like that.
100%. I mean, even in going back to the Batman Lego, where they named all of like 99 Batman villains or something like that. And it was like Joker was making fun of that whole thing and he named all these like really obscure random ones. And it's 100% true. There are so many random obscure characters that they could easily pluck out, redesign, make them a badass, and then there you go. And so
people
I thought
used to think that Joker was Bats' first villain, but it was actually, if I'm not mistaken, Hugo Strange. Like Hugo Strange was
first.
Yeah,
I think it was like Hugo Strange, Penguin, Riddler.
Victor's I don't think
one of them. Joker was till later.
No, not till later. And if I'm not mistaken, maybe the Red Hood appeared before Joker did, but I don't think, or maybe that was a different retcon in the.
I think you might be right.
Yeah.
But you're right. Like, I think that's the thing. So it was good to see that they pulled out some just really ridiculous ones. I thought that was funny. And then, they just made a competent film. Like they just had a lot of fun. It was cool. It was breezy. When I finished watching it, I think the only thing was the runtime was kind of long. But other than that, it was cool.
Yeah, it didn't need to be that long. I had one character issue, and spoiler alert, but I thought that
this whole episode is just a giant spoiler alert. You figured that out by now. We can care less about whether or not you've seen it. We're very sorry, but we also don't care.
This is an analysis. This is not just a
So with that disclaimer, please.
Yeah. Okay. Carry on, my wayward son.
True.
But so I thought the whole thing with the aides not being on board with Waller and then knocking her out, I was like, and then still being in the office afterwards, I was like,
Yep.
Oh
100%.
Oh, and then dude was like, oh, she's pairing us with Peacemaker to punish us. I was like, bruh, if you had gotten the real Amanda Waller, you wouldn't have even been here. It'd been a new actor altogether.
I was surprised that she wasn't tied up, bound, and gagged. Because that's the only because literally when she came through, she probably would have shot everyone there.
She would have shot every single one of them, starting with the girl who clubbed her.
Which was one of the few things that worked in the first one.
Yeah.
Yep. 100%.
Will Smith, when Flag and Deadshot pull up in secret HQ, she's like, yeah, they weren't cleared for this op. So bang, 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 and
that's Waller.
Yep. And so
they weren't.
I think
they weren't cleared for this. So
that was the one. Now. That was the one part I would say from that. That was like, yeah, I was like, yeah, she would have woke up and she's not bound and gagged.
y'all did,
and they set it up because when the guy asked her, "Would you really use his daughter to whatever? I don't think you would do that." And she was like, "You have no idea what I do. You have no idea what I would do." I was like, "Okay, there's the setup." And then you don't have her take them out. Like, no, Walla would not have ever. First of all, she would have never had any aides around her who weren't like willing to sacrifice all. Look at Peacemaker. That was her blunt instrument. Like that was her fail-safe. She would have never had an office, or she would have had some plants. Like if somebody pulled that, bow, the person next to her, like, no, that was the one mistake James Gunn made in the movie was having Waller tamed.
Yeah, I think that's a good way to put it, because I think
for that.
Yeah, I would say. I mean, because that was the only thing I thought character-wise that seemed off.
9.75. I retract my 10.
You know, because you're right. If Waller would have woke up,
you are correct.
If Waller would have woke up with a bump on her head and didn't kill somebody, then it's like,
Yeah.
Or woke up with a bump on her head and then have another one of her Suicide Squad members that she had holding back as backup just in case to murk everyone, because she don't get her hands dirty when she needs. You know what I'm saying? Like just that little. That's the part where I'm like that little small thing would kind of further that legend of how she rocks and how she operates. And so you're right. That was probably a character misstep, if you will.
Yeah.
But I think everything else, I thought that was dope. I thought
everything else was solid.
The red herring of them going into the village and being like, "Oh man, these are insurgents," and then killing everybody. And like, oops.
Oh, that was. And let me tell you, John Cena, when he says, "I adore peace with all my heart, but I'm willing to kill every man, woman, and child I have to get it," I was like, "What?" And he said it with the most douchery ever. Like, dude.
And you understand why he's getting his own series. It makes perfect sense. I heard it because I heard it before. Like I'm a John Cena like acting fan, because he's just really good for how big he is, and he just delivers really, really well.
Yeah,
and
he's like The Rock in that way.
100%. And so, but yeah, after watching this, I could totally see why they gave him a series. Like it makes sense. Like he was just having so much fun, and he was like, good. It was good in the character, and it was like some pretty good stuff. And then, and props to Idris Elba too, because I thought like he did a good job of just kind of carrying that film, coming along. Yeah, and then also reacting to all the craziness that was around him. Like he's saddled with a bunch of with a big ass shark, and then a girl that talks to rats and he hates rats. Like they had like just good moments of it that it was pretty dope. And so the overall, I thought they did a pretty good job of just like making you kind of forget the other one, and then B, again, taking kind of what James Gunn is always good at, taking a bunch of random characters, and by the end of it, making you like, oh, I kind of like these characters,
Yeah. And I think that movie, it showed us that the first one was so forgettable that they didn't even need to retcon that much. Because they had Flag, and they had the same actor as Flag. They as Boomerang.
It was a standalone sequel at most. As I said, they said it. And
you had the reference to the fact that they had teamed up in the past, Harley and all them people, but didn't need to reference not a single damn other thing.
Yeah. Like, and I think that as they kind of moved on from the last movie, like you didn't even feel bad. You're just like, oh, all right. Well, it's like okay. I mean, whatever. Yeah.
So,
but yeah, you're right. I think that in that respect, I think Gunn did a good job. And if the only bad thing after watching it, I was just like, yikes! I don't know what DC is going to do.
There's no clear.
I would hate to be the guy who has to follow that up now.
Like I don't know what they're going to do. I mean,
the bar is still low. I mean, it's still low. Even after that, it's still, because that's just like, that's one of those like small pieces of light in the sea of darkness. Like that's just like, it's almost so much that maybe it's a trick of the eye. Like you don't even know if you trust it just yet. So like we'll see what, because I mean
The
they
professor
have
called it an
produced
optical illusion.
absolutely. They've had so many stinkers. How could I not? Wonder Woman 84 was terrible. It shouldn't have happened. Then you had what was before that?
It was terrible.
Kenny. It was terrible. Credit to Charles Barkley. That's
True.
Terrible.
No, I think it is true. Like, you don't know where they're going from this point. Their best bet would be to, again, just acknowledge the multiverse and do a soft reboot with Flashpoint. Like, just get out of the week. Like, again, they reference Bloodsport shooting Superman with a bullet. We never saw that. So again, that's like setting up some things that knowing. And as I said before, with the big three, you do not need to give them individual single movies like that. Like, they can just exist in the world and be a part of it, and then show up when it's time to get the Justice League together.
Right.
Because that's how well established they are. If you allow the other characters to play in that sandbox with them looming, it's amazing. Like, you could do so much with it.
It creates gravitas pretty easily, actually.
No, you're right. 100%.
Mm-hmm.
I think that was, again, playing in a soundbox box that has a world of Wonder Woman, Superman, Batman, it's as opposed to always having them show up. You would just have way more fun. You could, and you could even section it out, because I think it's like for DC, they have a whole good section of interesting characters that they can definitely do. They have tons of like diversity type characters that are actually pretty fresh. Even like
Suicide Squad clearly, and many of them are disposable, as Suicide Squad has clearly delineated.
Yeah, and then even if you go on the Justice League route with like Green Lantern and the whole Green Lantern situation, you got a whole things worked out on Wonder Woman, and so each of the main characters have their own universe of peoples that have interesting stuff going on. That's not just Batman. And so I think as you guys were talking about with Titans earlier on, it's like just mentioning that there's a Batman in this universe and understanding that he's around and we're scared of him and he's annoying. Like, that's cool and that's good enough. Just like
you see his effect on the world, and that's good enough. Like seeing his effect on the world.
And I think just the way that they had him pull up in Titans as Bruce Wayne, never costumed, and just the sort of almost hand of God type character. Like, I'm here and I see y'all and I know y'all doing stuff, and that's cool. And keep doing that. I'm gonna do Batman stuff off camera. And
he's Gandalf now. He's ascended to Gandalf level. He's the wizard in the hero's journey
100%.
that sets the new characters on their arc. Like, that's
100%.
That's where Batman is now. With Superman, it's different. You have to handle that differently, because Superman is all but ageless, and he's not gonna get tired, or he ain't training nobody new because he don't got to. You know what I'm saying? He barely acknowledged Connor. Facts. So with Superman, you got to handle that differently, and that's why he's such a complicated character, because he's just too powerful.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah. I think that's the whole point. I mean, someone said the same thing about layers, like, DC and Marvel, what's the differences? I'm like, well, Marvel doesn't really have like a Superman. And so they have Superman-like characters, but like there's literally not a character that's the same that could literally come through and change the outcome of literally anything. And not so that's the part that, not even Hulk. Hulk could still get thrown into space.
He'll change the outcome, but he's the sort of chaotic solution. Like, he might solve your problem, but he might create like 5 new ones in the process.
Exactly. It's too volatile. It's not a guarantee.
That's the word.
Superman is a built-in Durex Machina. Like,
100%.
You can't get around that.
Yeah, and so I think that's always been their annoyances too, because like at the end of the day, like, something's happening and Batman's like doing something with this villain, he can't figure it out. Superman could literally swoop in, throw him into space, and then it's over.
Yeah, and it's over. The only time that it was interesting was Doomsday Clock, because here you have Dr. Manhattan, and that's a different figure that Superman has never faced, and arguably is more powerful than Kal-El.
Mm-hmm.
And so But with that, they tried to, because Watchmen is such a different type of narrative, it was hard to have, you couldn't just have a heads-on Dr. Manhattan versus Superman. First of all, Dr. Manhattan not interested in that.
Yep, exactly.
And secondly, it's over like that because if he's made of molecules and stuff like that, if Dr. Manhattan wants to break them down to see what he's made of, it's gonna happen.
Mm-hmm.
So that was the only time there was an interesting challenge.
I think that's the thing where like Marvel has characters that probably could beat Superman, but they would be on but again, they're all cosmic level, godlike characters that
or magic.
Or magic,
or magic.
And so
we know that's his weakness, even though nobody uses it against somebody.
Yeah.
Talking about that.
Yeah,
D'Angelo.
I'm purposely glossing over that aspect.
Well, you know how I feel about Superman. I'm not gonna let anything slide.
You love Superman, we know.
I mean, honestly, if they threw Superman in hell and he had to figure his way out, that would be kind of dope. And then John Constantine was like his sidekick. He had to like help him. He'd have to navigate it because he doesn't know anything about magic because he's actually an idiot. And so that'd actually be something different. Like I've never seen that before,
I'd read that.
Yeah.
That would be good. And that's kind of akin to what happens in Justice League Dark, is it not, right? So he's
kind of
like broken down, and now John Constantine's magical powers is more useful than Superman. Yes. He doesn't have his physical strength because it's suppressed.
Justice League Dark was really, really good in that respect, where the one thing that DC animation does really well is they really have a lot of fun with the different types of storylines and a lot of their characters. And so like they'll really dive deep, have some different stuff that they've never done before. They still do way too many Batman stuff, but when they focus on non-Batman characters, they always present them in a really cool and interesting way.
They do a good job of creating stakes. And and you buying those stakes. You know that they're gonna, the good guy's gonna win because the good guy always wins. But they've done such a good job across all the animated stuff that they've done of crafting stories that legit still make you doubt or still make you sort of, at the very minimum, go, how are they going to get out of this?
Yeah, they could lose. Yeah, and Dark was Apocalypse Dark was a perfect example of 100%. And they do a good job. Adding to that, they do a good job of taking the main people off the board.
Yep.
In a lot of these high stakes situations, they took Bat, Superman, Wonder Woman, all of them justly off the board at the beginning of that film. And then what I like is at the end, you don't have this, everybody's okay, it's hunky dory, the bad guy. It's like, no, they're sitting on their feet. Remained. And there's they're broken. Like they're, even if they, so it's like to the point where they have to have Flash do something that they hate when he does when he doesn't. And I thought that was the most ironic part of that. And so all that to say, DC animated, like if you haven't watched their movies or Young Justice, their TV, you have to, because it's their stuff. It's amazing.
Unlike Marvel animation,
90% of the movies.
Yeah, exactly. Unlike with Marvel, where their live action is better than their animation. However, What If did just drop recently, and
segue.
Pretty
That's
good.
nice. That's good.
And, what I'm saying? I'm out here. I'm a veteran out this.
See you, bro. Wow.
But What If was fun. It was actually really fun.
I thought it was solid.
Yeah, man. I think if I'm not the biggest fan of 3D CG animation with toon shading, that's not my favorite type of animation. However, it was done pretty well and very solid. Having a lot of the original voices for the characters that helps with that. Where it's just like you believe it quicker now. I played the Avengers video game on PS4, and one of the things that threw it off a lot was like, one, the characters don't look like the characters you've been watching in the movies, but then also their voices aren't the same, so it really jars you as you're playing the game. Like, it was a fun game. There's ups and downs about it, but for this, they had Haley Atwell came back, Dominic Cooper came back for Dum Dum Dugan,
Howard Stark.
Howard Stark.
Sorry.
Howard Stark also came back as well. Like, so they kept a lot of the same voices to come through, which actually was really cool. And then the pacing wise was cool because they really just essentially just redid their first episode was Captain Carter basically, which is weird because I was like, why don't they just call it Captain Britain? But that's a whole other thing.
Because X-Men licensing. God.
But to their credit, they did a really good job. And one of the things that I've always annoyed about with Marvel's animation is they outsource it and they go for quantity over quality. And this is definitely quality. This is definitely high quality.
Yes, I agree. Yeah. I'm with you. I don't usually love the animation style that they went for, but
I don't like it. Yeah.
It works. It works. It's not terrible. They make it work. Like Cam mentioned, Haley Atwell pretty much knocks it out of the park again. Not sure why they don't just make her a recurring character and be done with it.
Yep.
Yeah, she's amazing.
Chris Evans was great. Sebastian Stan was great. They
legit had everybody.
Everyone from Captain America.
I shouldn't be surprised. I mean, it is.
Even Stanley too. She did like a quick couple lines and stuff too.
Yep. Yeah.
So, they had everybody. They brought everybody back, and it worked. Well,
shout out to Jeffrey Wright, the voice of God.
Oh, that was awesome as well. Great, a surprise. I didn't know that was going to happen. I was like, awesome.
Mm-hmm.
I'm a big fan.
Watcher. That was great.
Yep. And so, but they did a good job. I thought it was like, from out the gate to kind of let people know what this is about. I thought it was cool, and I like how they set it up and everything. And like I was always a big fan of What If back in the 80s and 90s when they had it. Because it was always that's what they used to break a lot of new artists. When they would get new artists at Marvel, they would put them on a What If book, which is like a one-off just to see how they would do and all that kind of stuff. So there's a lot of people like Jim Lee who did some stuff in there, early stuff, some Liefeld, McFarlane, like a lot of the gonna be greats later on. They all broke their teeth on What If books, just random stuff. So it was always in the 80s and 90s. What If was always like a cool like anthology book of just cool ideas and then also some cool art from people that you didn't know.
So is this single episode? Is it single episodes or?
Yeah. It's basically an anthology show, and each episode is going to be, a different idea. Like what if,
Okay.
And so the comics were just like kind of the same. Like, what if freaking Xavier had gotten killed and Magneto was the leader of the X-Men or something like that.
What if Xavier was Ghost Rider?
I remember that was another crazy one.
That actually I'm not pulling that out of my behind.
What if Peter Parker was the Punisher? So they would just do things like that where, like, again, not crazy twists, but like little small ones. Some work better than others.
What if Conan fought Thor?
Oh yeah, that was a good one.
That's those are really good, like writing exercise, like just writing prompts,
just go balls to the wall.
Yeah,
that's like a lot of idea. Yeah, a lot of like. To me, when I was younger, looking at it, it always seemed like that was the testing ground for like their new people before they would go on something. Because I was like, oh, I remember this guy. He was on What If. Now he's on Punisher, or he's on this, or whatever.
Wasn't there a good Hulk What If also?
Yeah, there are
a couple. I know it was one. The first one was What If Rick Jones became the Hulk.
Yep, that was one of them.
But there was another one that was a little bit further reaching, like, what if Bruce Banner couldn't change back? What if the Hulk couldn't change back to Bruce Banner? Some crazy.
Yeah,
like and then
like also
they follow the Hulk. They follow what would happen if the Hulk was just set loose with no Banner inside him.
Yeah,
something like that.
So they had some good stuff, and so I think that's a perfect. It's a perfect anthology to use in an animation format, and then also to get the big bulk of the character actors back to do voice work. And like there's going to be it's Chadwick Boseman's one of his last roles was recorded too. He's for Black Panther as well. So that was actually pretty crazy. So no, it's good. I mean, it positions them well. I think Disney's doing a great job of staggering out their new shows so that like there's a little bit of like there's literally maybe like a week in between a show that ends and another one begins kind of a thing.
Well, they're not all Marvel though.
Not all Marvel. Yeah. But they're kind of mixing that up. And it kind of works out well. So, But if they kind of keep that trend, and honestly, I hope that if nothing else, this makes them look at their movies a lot better in terms of their cartoons, because
yes,
their cartoons are fucking horrible. Like they're just not good. Like
word.
The last good Marvel cartoon series was Earth's Mightiest Hero.
100%. And credit to you for putting me on to that.
Yeah, that was right before.
The pacing is absolutely just one of the most abhorrent things I've ever watched in my life. But but the story, they plow through story like it's not even there. They have so much,
and they have a lot of fun of using the full cast of all Marvel characters. Like Wolverine shows up, Ghost Rider, this person.
Terrible pacing. Yeah. It's just ridiculously fast. You don't catch your breath at all, ever. There's no throwaway episodes. They just jump from big arc to 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 big arc. And there's no rest in between. They do a really good job of seeding what the next thing is. While thing one is going on, they seed thing two, but not for very long at all.
Yeah. Yep.
And there's very little overlap. There's overlap, but there's very little overlap. And then the next thing's already happening before you can blink. The pacing was terrible, but they changed it. What was it? What did it become?
It came like Avengers something. Because essentially what it was is this was in development before the movies were kind of getting going. And so before they were going to make the actual Avengers movie, this was already like, all right, we finished it. We're like doing it. So they had 2 solid seasons. And at the end of the second season, that's when the Avengers movie came out. So then they canceled this and then made another like really substandard, like run-of-the-mill cookie cutter Avenger cartoon that had all the people from the movie in it. Because cartoons are to sell toys essentially, and so
sure,
that was kind of like their whole thing. And so but it was dope in terms of like their Marvel like settings. Like I mean, the only other thing before that I would say is Wolverine and the X-Men that was really really good, and that's it. Like
X-Men was solid again. Another one you put me on to.
Yeah,
there's like to watch it, and you made me.
Telling you, man, it was good. But there's like 17 different Spider-Man shows.
None of them were really that good. And that's the thing. DC has been pretty consistently great with animated stuff since the early 90s because Batman
Bruce Timm came in and
Bruce Timm. They've had exactly one misstep, and it was that first Batman Mr. Freeze movie. Literally everything else has been great. That's the only thing that I saw that I was like, this is trash.
Completely.
That one wasn't that good. But then they quickly bounced back with Mask of the Phantasm and they had some good animated films. And then just going into the 2000s and 2010s, like they just a slew of just like amazing. Everything from what was it, Justice League Doom, where Vandal Savage uses Batman's Doomsday device against the Justice.
That was awesome. That was great.
Was
it the one quote?
Where, apologize to you guys.
Yeah, they were like, "Wait, you have a thing to kill all of us?" He's like, "Yeah, don't you guys?"
They're like Flash is Barry is so put off. Like I think Clark is kind of just like, what do you expect? Like everybody, like, but Barry just can't get over it. And Bruce's Batman is just like, if you don't understand why I have a fail safe for all of you, then I can't explain it to you. And I
believe the exact line is, if you don't understand, they were putting him on trial. Basically, they were like, we need to vote whether or not Batman stays in the league. And
that's
like,
what
no, don't vote. Don't even bother voting. If you people don't understand, and you call them you people, if you people don't understand the need for a failsafe against a rogue Justice League, then you're all damn fools. I'm out. And he left.
That was the line, and he left.
And I agree.
And he left
with young Master Batman at that point.
Yeah,
you're right. Yeah, I mean, in the comics, that was a great story too. But I think
to be fair though, not DC, Marvel has had the one good joint that came out before all of this came out, before all of this happened, with Wolverine versus Thor and Wolverine versus Hulk.
Oh yeah, it's cool. With the Deadpool cameo and all that. That was good.
Those were good. Yeah.
Wolverine versus Hulk versus Thor was okay. But
yeah,
Hulk versus Wolverine was actually pretty amazing.
I think that's kind of the thing where it's like, instead of teaming up with animation houses to do some dope shit, they kind of do the things internally and then they farm it out for the pieces that just need to get done. And I think that's why I think, to me, like, I was reading up on the story about Wolverine versus X-Men. Wolverine and X-Men, and why that didn't get forward. And that was just a legal dispute. That was literally just on some, like, they just couldn't get the paperwork done. And they just couldn't figure that shit out. So they got canceled. That's literally what's all it was. And so I hope that this experience with What If has helped them for that, because another great example for Disney is the upcoming anthology show for Star Wars, and they work with like 8 or 9 different animation studios. Yeah, Visions or something like that. They work with like 8 or 9 different animation studios, and they're just like, yo, go wild, pitch us your stuff, and we'll either say yes or no, and then keep it moving. Like, but that's kind of the way you should do it, because then that way you would get like high quality type things. You don't have to worry about it. You know, you don't need to have this in house. There's tons of great animation studios, small, big, whatever, that you can just be like, all right, we're gonna do an anthology show. This is the theme. Give us your pitches, and we pick the best ones, and then you make good stuff.
Basically. Yeah.
And so I hope if nothing else, this What If will help them kind of see that. And so, I think they stuck with one studio for this whole thing. I'm not sure.
Oh, boo.
But so I think that similar like style is going to be the whole thing. But
so what did you call the tech they were using? Toon shading?
Yeah. So basically, it's like you animate in 3D or in CG, and then you toon shade it, which is kind of like that flat shading where it's just basically like one color and then a shadow. And so you'll see it in a couple of shows.
Light sourcing.
Exactly.
Like and contrast and what have you. Okay, that makes some
So the whole thing is made in CG, like whatever program you would use it in. And then when they instead of doing textures like they would normally do to make it all perfectly, like this is a texture of a skin, this texture of the hair, blah blah blah. They just do toon shading, which basically makes it a cartoon essentially. And so the recent Dragon Prince, I think that kind of had a similar vibe to it. They did mix. They did half hand drawn animation, half toon shading CG stuff. But yeah, so it's interesting, dude. I think Flying Bark Production Studio. That's basically who's doing this one. Interesting.
I think like with everything else, in Feige we trust. He's not let us down so far, and I don't think he will.
Yeah. No, you're right.
Yeah, I agree. I think
he has a lot of slack, because even if he did do a misstep, we would be like, well, we got 10, 15, 12 years of like dopeness and one misstep.
Misstep, I think you're allowed.
Yeah, 100%.
A couple missteps, but you guys can keep being generous all you want to. I'll always be here to bring you back to reality.
I'm trying to bring hope in a time of dark times.
We need balance.
With this hope is revolutionary.
Wow.
It does bring about change.
Exactly. But what I was going to say is I'm going to wrap this up because we're already at that like pretty long mark. We're going to do some final words. D, let's go with you.
Yeah, we talked about a whole lot of stuff here. Loki, Suicide Squad. I think what's been great so far is that there seems to be, with Marvel anyway, a really nice build, a trajectory to something amazing to come. I'm certainly looking forward to seeing how Jonathan Majors differentiates Kang the Conqueror from He Who Remains. I know that's going to be extremely fun for him, and just based on his enthusiasm with He Who Remains, I can't wait to see that. Loki had me, again, doubly interested in what's going to happen with Quantumania and how they sort of bookend time travel and time space and multiversal. It seems like Marvel is kind of going with the probability of choice, even with what ifs, and things like that, which I believe is the best way to depict the multiverse, because it's ties it back to that singular consciousness, but it's still all these different possibilities. So very much looking forward to what Marvel's got cooking up, especially as far as their cosmic stuff. And it was, and Suicide Squad, definitely solid 8.5 out of 10. It gets no more, no less from me. And and that's that.
Nice. Josh?
I have 2 points that I would like to address in my final word. One, y'all are not ready for King the Conqueror at all. If they do half the insanity that they've done in the comic books over the years with King the Conqueror, holy balls. Y'all are not y'all are not ready. Man, y'all are not ready. And second, why in the name of God has every streamer dropped something today or yesterday within the last 24 hours? There's like 3 shows today.
Yeah.
Come on, man. Like, y'all got, you could literally drop stuff any day you want. Why is August 12th so special? Why are there 5 shows today? Why?
Yeah.
It's not necessary.
No. That's a good point.
I know we didn't really touch on the streaming wars, but my God, this is a lot. This is too much.
Yeah.
Like,
well, I think
I'm happy to have the content. I'm happy to watch all of it, but don't give it to me all at once. Like, don't give me everything in one day, in one 24-hour stretch. What's wrong with you?
Do you want to say something?
Yeah, I just want to say something really quick. You know what today was like, Josh? Today was like the opening scene after the crawl in Star Wars Episode 3, where it's like the big booming music, and then all of a sudden the camera pans down, and it's just like chaos. Everybody, it's like they just fight. You're like, what's going on? Man. That's what today's streaming battle was the battle over Coruscant.
Yep.
That is about as accurate a description as one could give. It's not necessary. Like, oh, you know what? Well, Disney Plus is dropping something today, so we should drop something today. Executives, please. There are 365 days on a calendar. You don't have to do everything the same day someone else does. As a matter of fact, it's beneficial to you to let them have their moment, and then you have yours. Stand alone without any, just please, for my sanity.
On your own merit.
With Titans versus What If.
We're ending this recording at 11:08. I got like 10 shows that I gotta watch now. For the love of God, up till like 6 o'clock in the morning. I gotta go to work in the morning. Come on, man.
And DC definitely threw an uppercut to your point with Titans versus What If. It was like What If was like the soft launch for the day. And DC is like, I see your animated effort, and I'm gonna raise it with our live action team up.
And how many episodes did they drop of Titans?
2?
3.
3 episodes.
They dropped 3 episodes, and one of those episodes is called Red Hood. So
wow. I'm upset. I'm good upset, but I'm upset.
Yeah.
Wow. That makes sense though. You're right though. I think everyone's clamoring for the eyeballs now, and it's super interesting. And
that is the conversation I've had with my post supervisor on a show that I cannot disclose. I'm working on. Our client will not change the drop dead date for our show, and basically now we have to triple time it to meet the deadline for the first episode to be delivered. And they're pretty much like they're clamoring for they're clamoring for content. So content creators, would-be writers, anybody who wants to get something off, now's the time, because they want it, and they want it bad. They want and need it all very badly. Yeah. That is the word from the inside.
Yeah. And after the end of the golden age of television, it's over. It's over. want to cry.
I had
It's
to
over.
Fix the glasses.
now it's more of the this era is going to be interesting in and of itself because it's more of a gold rush kind of thing where it's like
is.
I was gonna say
now
that,
it's more about content creation.
Yeah,
It's more about quantity than quality.
yeah. But then when quality shows up, it shines really, really bright.
Absolutely.
I think that's the thing.
Absolutely.
I think that's now we're in a good area where like if something's really dope, like it's really good, and like everyone knows it's good, and whether it survives or not doesn't matter. But everyone agrees that it's dope, and so I think that's the thing where like as things are starting to get like literally every cable network has their own streaming service now, or they bundle it up, or they did something like. They're still searching for their like little quality type situations, and everyone's trying to figure out A, how to replicate the Marvel model, B, how to be sustainable and all that. Like even Disney Plus, like their numbers in terms of subscriber base is crazy. Like they're just shooting, they're slowly catching up to Netflix in a short amount of time, which is nuts.
Well, everybody wants to be the next, have the next Game of Thrones or have the next, whatever the sexy thing of the day is, and understandably so, but. It doesn't just happen. You have to make
you got to put the time in there. How long it takes to get there. We had The Sopranos and then a few other things, and then there was the fun stuff, the True Bloods of the world, and all that stuff. And then Breaking Bad's popped up, which was like
Game of Thrones as well,
and then Game of Thrones. I would say Game of Thrones of the age of. The golden age was the peaking point, I think.
Oh yeah,
because you had the Breaking Bads, the Mad Men's,
even Westworld at that tail end at the end.
That tail end. Well, Westworld was supposed to be the heir apparent anyway to Game of Thrones, but either way, say we're here in this new era, and it's a lot interesting because it's such a different way of distribution and audience attention. Like it's such a unique and different time. We call it the streaming wars, kind of trivial, but at the same time it is a war. It is a war.
Much. It is. Everyone's competing for eyeballs, man. It's like kind of crazy. And I think as you start to see it, and as a different conglomerate start to gobble each other up too. That's the other thing as well. Like for me, I watch anime, and Crunchyroll is where I get most of my stuff. And Funimation, which is owned by Sony, I believe,
now it is
just bought and acquired Crunchyroll. So now they have the monopoly on all anime in America, which is crazy.
And would have been thought of years ago because monopolies are supposed to be illegal, right?
And then even this acquisition is going to the government now because it's because they it's going to the government now with this acquisition. I think it got approved on whatever level it needs to be approved on, and now it's going to the government to be like, is this whatever, blah blah blah. But as of right now, there's only literally one source to get legal animation, Japanese anime in America, and that's going to be basically Sony owns those guys, Funimation and Crunchyroll, which is crazy. Wow. So that's kind of nuts. But
I'm curious to see what the FCC will do with that.
Me too. I'm really curious because if I was
Sony will own it all.
Yep.
And Sony's still a Japanese company, right?
They wouldn't own it all. They would be the sole distributor in the United States.
That's what I mean. The sole distributor. That's what I meant. Not to clarify.
And they're still a Japanese-based company too, which is kind of crazy. So it kind of makes sense for them on that end. But I'm really curious to see how that kind of shakes out. And then same thing with like say for instance, like I watch Korean dramas, and there's only there was 3 sources before that you can get your Korean dramas from. Now there's pretty much just one. And so that one source is licensing all those dramas to come over to America so you can watch it legally or whatever. So I'm curious to see same thing with a lot of these services now, because, the major players are Netflixes, your Hulus, and then you got your, now you have Paramount and HBO Max and, Discovery Plus is getting in there too. And everyone's trying to wiggle their way in, AMC and freaking Stars and all those guys. So it's really interesting to see what's actually going to because I actually think folks like Pluto and IMDb will probably last longer than a lot of the other ones purely because of their ad-based services, it makes sense, ads are supporting all that stuff and they're gobbling up all that old content that people forgot about. And they're like, oh man, I want to watch this.
But I think with the Korean distribution model, because they're not an American company and because they have such a limited presence here, I don't think you're going to have the same situation like a Crunchyroll where like there's an actual American component to it.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a good point.
The licensing, the licensing ends up being very different because while you probably have some outlets here, there's no. It is a major market, but it's not like Netflix or Disney Plus major.
Yeah,
it's very niche.
Yeah, super niche. And honestly, that's how Netflix has been kind of keeping pace with all of the newer American ones is by adding in more foreign content. So like they have a slew of new Korean dramas. They have a bunch of Filipino movies and TV shows, a lot of Indian shows, African.
From Africa.
Yeah, a lot of African stuff. They've been killing it with a lot of their Spain content. Like a lot of their top shows in Spain are now on French Netflix. Content. Yep, French as well. So it's really interesting to see how Netflix, as they start to quote unquote lose their shows or lose TV show or lose movies from the big guys, they're like, well, we already have a budget for all of our original content, but now we're seeding that with all the stuff from all these foreign companies because no other American company is actually showing foreign stuff like HBO Max and all them. They're not bringing in like Japanese or Filipino or Thai stuff.
One thing that HBO Max did do, which I thought was smart, is, and I don't know the specifics of this deal, but they carry Criterion, Janice.
Yeah, that was actually that was a smart move. That was because I was watching some of the some dope stuff. Yeah, that was dope.
So now that I'm thinking about it, I think the only way that the K-drama thing would get litigated is if any one of the companies that we mentioned made a foray into that genre and then use that as the basis to file a suit against the company that you're talking about, as encroaching or having a monopoly or whatever. Like, look, we're trying to compete in that arena, and they have, and they have the lock on it.
So until then, Sony's gonna win.
Because
before they do that, they probably would try to buy them.
Yeah,
because if K-dramas tomorrow just suddenly became ridiculously popular, one of the conglomerates, one of the bigs would try to buy them before they litigate it.
Yeah, because I mean, even for Hulu, they struck a deal with Funimation, so that they had a whole slew of their anime catalog into Funimation. I mean, Funimation's catalog into Hulu, so you can watch a lot of popular stuff, a lot of same day type things. It was actually pretty smart. And so I think for the Korean dramas, the licensing fee is astronomical. But you're right. I think if Hulu or Netflix or one of them basically struck a deal with one of the major Korean drama, like because the thing about Korean dramas that's different than American stuff is they usually do a lot of one-offs. So like their serial stuff is usually reality television or something like that, but all their fictional stuff is usually just one-off. Like, you're a writer, I have an idea, I shoot it for 24 episodes. Once it's done. Then you start a whole new idea. Just like
you mean like the opposite of American television? How novel!
Wow, going on forever
crazy.
What a beginning, a middle, and an end. What? Yeah. And then in Craig. And then in K-dramas, if anything, they'll get an extra episode, and that will be their continuation. Like, we need a little bit more time to finish something. All right, we'll give you 2 more episodes or something like that. But they have a beginning, middle, and an end, and then they move on. And then that same team or that same production will like have another idea and the different types of stuff. It might be the same genre or whatever, but like that's that turnover. So they don't really care about having like that one Game of Thrones that has X amount of seasons or Grey's Anatomy that has
they're not looking for them.
Yeah, not at all.
BBC model,
because you're following the you're following the actors and the writers, and it as
BBC does not care. They'd be like, right, so this is 1 season long. Goodbye.
Yeah, exactly.
We made stars though. We made stars.
Or it'd be like Luther.
Like they do one of the best examples.
Or it'd be like Luther or Sherlock Holmes. They do 3 episodes every year and a half.
Exactly, basically. American TV did used to have that kind of model. I mean, Columbo was like that. Columbo wasn't like a season TV series. It was because I remember I learned that because my grandfather was a Columbo fan, and I was like, oh, this is weird. This is kind of like a movie almost. And he's like, oh yeah. A Columbo episode would come once every 2 or 3 years. You wouldn't have them like every season. So America just kind of, as everything else, just grew from that. Yeah, just went away from that. That's why the classic anthology went away. I remember you had a Tales from the Crypt where it was like, each episode was straight standalone, different actors, different directors, like 40-minute films like Outer Limits, Twilight Zone, like none of that stuff. It wasn't until like, you know, you had
Friday
a 24 and then you had all these Friday the 13th, like you had all these different anthologies and these stories that were like one-off. People got in and they got out.
Yeah, no, you're right. Yeah.
Paramount Plus, hit us up. We got ideas, man. I'm telling you.
You gotta know, right?
We got ideas.
My first idea is a Star Trek only network. Done. You're welcome.
Our idea.
You got so much content there. I mean, you that's where you gotta listen to him. Paramount. He's giving you.
They have that already on Pluto.
True.
Pluto TV has a Star Trek channel, but they really only show like TNG and then the random movie every now and again, and then all the Shatner documentaries.
Yeah. Well, this one he proposes is going to be curated, so you can curate it yourself. You can do it. I'm a call.
Yeah, man. And then, or you could do something where you can make collections. So you're just like, oh, these are all the Worf collections from all the shows. Like, you know, he's a little bit of this, a little bit of that, you know. Yeah. Or here's all the Klingon collection. Here's the Romulans. Here's the Kardashian. You know, like you can kind of break it down and make little break things out. Like, oh, these are the greatest hits for like Geordi LaForge. You know, blah blah blah.
Paramount. That's off the dome. We got actual written ideas for y'all. We ready. That's just off the dome. He just came up with that.
Hilarious.
Hit us up. We ready. We're here. Working television professionals. We three.
You know, fellas, good to be back. I know it's been a minute. We'll make sure we keep this on a more consistent basis. So
we got stuff to do, man.
There's plenty of stuff coming, so we'll be talking more for sure.
Definitely.
There's only 20 shows premiering tonight, so I'm sure we'll be back.
Yeah, definitely. But yeah, thanks for rocking with us. And it's Table of Truth, and we out.
Go wash your hands.